Quick context, this was recorded March 28th and 29th, so a couple of weeks ago at my live event, SaaSOpen.com. We had 1,000 software CEOs there. If you missed it, we hope to see you at the next one, September 5th and 6th in New York City, SaaSOpen.com. But for now, let's jump into the recording.
First off, I'm Kyle Norton. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at a vertical SaaS company called Owner.com, Series B, about 20 million ARR. Sales and sales leadership for a long time, post-sales for most of the last 5 or 6 years. And previous to this, I was at Shopify where I ran a $250 million go-to-market unit there. And so what we're going to talk about today is building unreasonable efficiency in SMB go-to-market, but it's a lot of the lessons learned are widely applicable. Let me go back a slide. Oh, I'm clicking the wrong thing here. Okay, so over the next 20 minutes, we're going to talk about building efficiency. We're going to stay focused on 3 main topics. One is the importance of staying focused and how to say no to lots of stuff. We're going to talk about, as we're growing, how to stay efficient as we hit the gas while scaling headcount. That's scale smart. And then we're going to talk about building operational excellence when you got a million things to do as an early stage SaaS leader, but operating with some rigor and what are the sort of Pareto principles there to get the most bang for our buck. I'm mostly speaking to companies right now that have product market fit, that have some repeatability in their motion. Your deals don't have to be massively repeatable, but they need to rhyme. You can't be winning friends of the founder deals and think that we're gonna slam the gas on headcount and spend. So that's really the audience here. A couple $1 million, some repeatability, and a lot of these lessons should hold. Okay, so a little bit about the Owner growth story. I've been with the business for just about 2 years. We started at 3. We're just passing 20 right now. That gives me a little bit of credibility to talk about this topic, but more of my credibility is because I messed it up my first go around as a head of sales. And so I'm going to talk about these 2 experiences. One is trying to really nail efficiency because I've seen it go wrong, and some of the lessons I've now seen juxtaposing early, overly aggressive scale with what we're doing right today. So it's a little bit of the growth chart, but let's look at some of the journey. So I joined June 2022 and massive inefficiency in the business, mostly driven by early churn. We were closing tons of deals. The sales number looked pretty good, but rampant misalignment of customer fit, customer quality, the handoff. And so there was upwards of like a 30% churn. We're SMB, 30% churn in the first 90 days post-close. So that was job number 1, was fixing early churn. I also had to let go. I inherited 4 reps. I fired half of them, sort of a hard reset, moved the manager to be a rep eventually. So it was a rebuild of the foundations. And so that was what 2023 was all about, was getting to this pilot team of 6 and then eventually 10 AEs, a group of BDRs, and making sure that this group of individuals could kick out not only a growth number, but a growth number at an acquisition cost, an LTV CAC ratio, a burn multiple that we have felt comfortable with, and now we're scaling on top of that. So at first it's find product market fit, find go-to-market fit, and then this third phase of finding go-to-market fit that really pays off before you start hitting the gas and putting in headcount, and that's sort of the stage that we're in right now, but still managing rep efficiency by making sure that we're taking full advantage of rep productivity on a per person basis. So last year we grew 2.5x, burn multiple under 1, 4.5 to 1 LTV CAC. So that's a view of like what's sort of possible with this approach. And that's SMB. So usually more challenging to get those types of efficiency numbers. So that's the outcome that we're sort of all hoping for. All right, so phase 1, we're going to talk about focus, we're going to talk about data, and then we're going to talk about OpEx. The first piece here is the concept of focusing on a really narrow ICP and some of the benefits there. So we go back to 2022 when I joined, just leaking deals like crazy. Sales team celebrating, hitting the gong, yeah, and then the onboarding team going, Like, what the hell, man? Like, these deals suck. They're all churning. They don't want to use our product. What's going on? So this was like the first hard reset. Not only is it capital inefficient, it's just chaos in your business. It's just chaos to have that type of misalignment between two teams. And so that was job number one. And it was mostly on the sales team. So we cleaned up deal quality, number one. My biggest takeaway from my first head of sales job was really pausing to make sure that we've got things figured out before we slam the gas. And so that's what I was trying to do here. Don't start scaling until we can win really serviceable deals. And so we started saying no to just like a ton of customers. We basically turned away 40% of closed ones that we would have closed 30 days before I got there. That was super fun because 2 months in a row was worse than the month previous. In my first board meeting, I was basically presenting a declining growth number with the promise of, no, don't worry, like I'm figuring it out. The foundations are getting better. So you have to make the hard decisions. And as a revenue leader, I think it's on us to do the things that might not look great, but are better for the business. And so that was job number one. So we focused on a really particular set of customers. Then we found the data for it, and I'll talk more specifically about how we did it. So this is a chart of churn by customer cohort. So this is like our new scoring algorithm called EGMV, estimated GMV, and you can see there's just this is a completely different business in green than it is in red. Probably 40, maybe even 50% of our deals were in here before I started, and now we're basically like 80% in here. We have a little bit of that happening. But the first step was really smart analysis. So I sat down with our BizOps team. We did a thorough analysis of what made a good deal. What were the qualities of a customer that had low churn? There's some usage-based pricing, so high GMV on our platform, which meant they were highly profitable, and we worked back from there. So we built this scoring mechanism called eGMV, and then the job was to figure out what digital footprint exists to match what we know makes a good customer with prospects in the world. And we're going to talk about the data work in a second. And so I made 3 different changes to our targeting, and we just kept raising the floor. eGMV floor of 1,500, then 2,000, then 2,500. We've continually made it more and more stringent what the sales team is going to work on and close. And every time we do it, the model gets more efficient. And interestingly enough, we sacrifice almost nothing in terms of growth because your reps are now shifting their time and energy onto a different cohort of customers, which are significantly more profitable for the business. So step number 1 is figure out what makes a great customer, and you can work with your data teams to figure all that out. The second piece, and this is equally as important, I've had a bunch of conversations on this topic, is you have to nail your prospect data. I think if you take one thing away from this talk, this is the slide. Before you hit the gas to scale your sales teams, scale spend, whether it's performance marketing or outbound, whatever it might be, you have to figure out how you can identify high-fit customers in the ecosystem and get them into your sales funnel. Harder inbound, because performance marketing, you're casting a very wide net, but we've done a bunch of things. We've taken entire audiences out of Snowflake, put them into our ad platforms. If your targeting and DQing is really on point, if your reps are really careful about DQing poorly fit leads, that feedback goes back to the ad platforms and they'll get smarter. Not 100%, but it will help. But on the outbound side, which everybody's trying to figure out how to make outbound be efficient, this is where you have full control. And where we just drew a really hard line. It's always a higher threshold for outbound in terms of deal quality than for inbound. And we found this data in the world. And so the very quick version of this is we bought a restaurant marketing database. We scraped so our market's like 300,000 mom and pop restaurants. We scraped 50,000 of the highest probability fits into our Snowflake instance and then ran a series of scrapers and enrichers on that entire database to pull in whatever information we could find online. So we would scrape their website, pull in data, their Google profile, their Facebook page, everything that had a digital footprint. We ran web scrapers, and then we built a machine learning model internally to give us a probabilistic score of that account. Once we had that account, then you need to nail your contact quality. So now I know how to get to all of the good accounts. I know what accounts we want to start with. The second piece is you need to equip your BDR teams with high quality data. And if you look at the average BDR team, they're probably working between 40 and 60% of their leads that are irrelevant. Wrong contact data, wrong company, not quite the right profile. They're not, and so you might as well send your team home 2 to 3 days of the week. That's how inefficient it was. This is what my analysis 3 companies ago told me when I looked at the BDR team. And so it's a lesson I've had printed in my mind. And so we went from having a 40% contact quality, because we sell SMB, contact data is pretty horrible, to an 80% contact quality with this whole enrichment system, this AI model. And then we API'd into People Data Labs to fuzzy match company, person, state, or city, state, and pull their mobile phone numbers. In the US, I'm Canadian, in the US, this data is everywhere. And so you can get mobile phone numbers. So now we went from 40% contact accuracy to 80%, and every single lead that my sales reps touch has been mobile phone enriched. And so the results there are sort of mind-blowing. The best identifier here is call to decision maker contact rate. When I first started piloting the outbound motion, 100 calls got us 3 conversations with the decision maker. Then we got from 3 to 12%, from 12 to 16%. So now that same 100 calls that got me 3 decision maker conversations, and so 3 days of calling might get you a handful of meetings. Now every day a BDR talks to 16 people. They book 2 or 3 meetings a day. The economics of BDR went from unsustainable, can't scale it, you're basically losing money, to every single month, every BDR on my team kicks out over $60,000 in closed-won ACV. And it only works because the data is good. And the great thing is there's 1,000 data providers out there that are all basically doing what we had to build in-house through web scraping, enrichment, and if you're not an SMB, it's even easier. But I would encourage everybody to do a very thorough analysis. What's the quality of data that your BDR team or your sales team is touching? Get a fine-tooth comb on it, and then just start killing leads. And just get them out of your system, and don't let your BDRs touch it. Don't let them do lead research. One of the things here is don't let your BDRs do lead research. Give them the leads and make sure. And if they say they need to do anything with them, it means your model's broken. All right, that's data. We're gonna go a little faster here. So now let's fast forward to Q1 2023. We're starting to scale the machine, and so this is when things start breaking a lot. And so you have this pilot team, it's working. Now we need to add headcount, reps, and we need a different type of repeatability. So there's 3 lessons I'm going to share here. 1, less is more. So we're going to talk about single-threaded ownership and the importance of good infrastructure. And so I'm going to go really quick here. The lesson here is, so at my first startup, we had 1 rep crushing it. We're like, great, we know how to sell now. We hired a bunch of reps. We ended up firing 25, 30% of them because we didn't have repeatability. We just had 1 really good unicorn rep, and we were all wearing our nice rose-colored glasses. So 2 things. Don't scale until you have like real evidence, and ask yourself the hard question, do you have repeatability? And then just do way less than you think you need to do. Less segments, less reps, less markets, less like different weird use cases. Just do way less of it and get super, super targeted on a very, very narrow ICP, a narrow talk track, and a narrow go-to-market motion. Everything will get better. You'll get so much better at that so much faster, because that organizational bloat is just so taxing. And if you want one rule of thumb from Sam Blond, Sam, I think you've also talked about this, the calendar test. If you want to know if you need more reps, less is more. Less reps is better than more reps. Just go look at their calendars. Unless they've got like 4 customer meetings, 5 customer meetings on their calendar every single day, you don't need more reps. That's not your bottleneck. It's something else. The second thing that I advocate quite strongly now is single-threaded ownership. So I mentioned the onboarding situation was a dumpster fire because my reps were closing the reps I inherited were closing bad deals. I tried to fix that and made a lot of progress, and then ultimately we combined the onboarding team with the sales team, and things got multiple months better in the course of weeks. Like the same progress that it took, the same amount of time it took me to like move the needle a little bit, all of a sudden everything was my problem. My sales managers were in the same channels as the launch managers. Everybody brought me their problems. I would strongly advocate that sales leaders should own onboarding. Not everybody can do it, and we have to help the sales leader scale up to have the business intelligence to do it. And I've got a plug for Pavilion at the end because I think that's a big piece of it. But combining teams was a massive game changer for us. And then once you've got this going, then you just got to get busy on infrastructure. The only takeaway here is just invest in it earlier than you think you need to. And I get that you look at hiring a head of RevOps, a head of enablement. Those are expensive headcount to layer over like 4 or 5 reps. You're like, geez, like that's like $400,000 in salary that I'm putting on top of these things. It's worth their weight in gold if you can make your reps more efficient on a per person basis, and it's going to give you the foundation you need. If you want to find a little like a middle path, then hire somebody on contract. Hire somebody on contract that has a full-time job that you might want to hire later and ask them to do 5 hours a week with you. This is what I did with both my guys when we were really managing burn super tightly. So that's like a pretty good hack. All right, finally, we're starting to scale, and this is like, call it 6-9 months ago, and we need to operate more efficiently. So there's 3 really easy things we can do and this is like minimum effective dosage, Pareto principle. If you can do these 3 things, they're pretty easy, and it's going to get you a lot of the way there in terms of driving efficiency. MBRs, aggressive performance management, and my love of documentation. So on the MBR side, I will send you my template. If you're not a direct competitor of mine, I'll send you my template. I'll send you my prep doc. This is like a screenshot of some of it. So there's a structure that gets filled in a couple days before we meet. It's an asynchronous process. So all of this information is populated, charts, Salesforce reports, all this stuff. And then we have specific questions that I expect certain people to fill in. So they're just tagged on who it is, the AE manager, the BDR manager, the head of RevOps. This all gets populated. We do an async review, comments, discussion happens in Notion, and then we only pull out into the actual MBR topics of conversation that we need to like make decisions on. Most MBRs, it's the RevOps guy just reading slides. In my opinion, that's a waste of time. Do the reading and review ahead of time, and only use your 60 minutes together in person to discuss the things that like are unresolved, that really need a conversation. And just get in the habit of doing an MBR. Just even if it sucks, even if it's like, sort of thrown together, the diligence of doing it will move your business forward. Second thing, as a part of MBR, always performance manage and stack rank. And so I move people out of the business that are like pretty close to quota. Like they could be okay performers. I'll still exit them from the business if they're consistently at the bottom of the stack rank, just because the bar is excellence. The cost of underperformance or the cost of mediocre performance has never been higher. And there's a lot of grumbling and griping you hear from founders and sales leaders. Oh, people don't work hard enough. Oh, people they're just like not excellent. Well, then get rid of them. Just move them on. It's your decision. And it's scary because you look at your growth plan, you're like, but I need 8 headcount. I can't move these 2 people out. Then I have 6 and I need 8. You're better off without them. It's not, the reps are almost never the bottleneck. It's almost always pipeline, in my opinion, most of the time. So just like get into the habit of doing this pretty aggressively. And finally, on the operational excellence stuff, just document like crazy and try to make it a part of your everyday. My favorite hack here is in the very early days where I had no support, I would sit down and do a training with a rep, and I would just record it on Google Meets. I would tell them, this is how you cold call, this is the framework, and I would walk them through it. Even if something isn't documented, I would take the transcript, pull only my part of the transcript out, pop that in ChatGPT, and just say, give me a training guide based on this call transcript. And then so I do a 30-minute training call, pop it in ChatGPT. Now I have this like pretty good framework. I would gussy it up with like 15, 20 minutes of work, and then I'd have a pretty decent document. Is it as good as what I have time to do now? No, but you can just crank out documentation, which keeps a level of consistency across your org that I think is really important. And I estimate that I can produce content at like a 2 to 4x higher rate using this GPT model. Or I'll be on the Peloton and I'll just dictate voice notes of like stuff I want to give to the team, and then I'll pop that in. It's like ChatGPT is the best co-author you could ever have. And documentation is cool, and just do more of it. I have a whole podcast episode with Ross Rich from Accord where I go on and on about it, so you can learn more there. Okay, last thing, I don't know why that's... all right, well, I have one slide that's missing. So this is like the but wait, there's more slide, and this is my plug for Pavilion. So I really think that one of the challenges that scaling companies have is the revenue leader doesn't have enough P&L fluency. And our profession as revenue leaders, we need to do better, and founders need to push your revenue leaders hard to think beyond their close one number. It's irrelevant. If the deal quality sucks and it's like nightmares down funnel and they don't understand the impact of what they're doing in the rest of the business, including their economics, their LTV CAC, the burn multiple of the business, like things won't get better fast enough. Your head of sales or head of revenue needs to develop P&L fluency. I have both my sales managers doing the revenue architecture school through Pavilion, Jarko's course. I was saying to Sam, like overnight, my sales manager now knows how SaaS works. He didn't come from SaaS, and it's like super impressive. So whatever it is, I'm a Pavilion fan myself, whatever it is, like get them into something where they can develop P&L fluency. There's a bunch of books, get them to read Impossible to Inevitable or Sales Acceleration Formula, but like get the P&L fluency and things will just like get better. All right, thank you.
Hey folks, if we haven't met yet, my name is Nathan Latka. I launched and sold my first software company back in 2015 and went on to write a book about it, which you guys made a Wall Street Journal bestseller, purchasing over 30,000 copies. Thank you so much for that. After the book, I launched this show and went on to create founderpath.com. I raised a large fund to do non-dilutive deals with B2B software founders. So far, we've invested in over 400 software founders, totaling $150 million. Here in 2024, we're doing 3 to 4 new deals per week. So if you're looking for capital and don't want to give up equity, go sign up at founderpath.com for free to get your offer.